Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve. Hello, and welcome back. This is episode 44. It's a bit crazy to think that we've recorded 44 episodes. What I wanted really to pitch to you today, Alex, is the idea about stress in life, how people experience stress, what we can do to help reduce stress in relation to the journey towards financial independence. I'll talk a little bit about how it impacts kind of the brain and body, as that's my bag. And then I think if we put our heads together and we think a little bit about how being financially astute or financially aware, following good financial practices, it can help reduce stress in everyday life.
Yeah, hi everyone and hi Alex. I think that's a great topic. I think everyone will, experience stress at some point, if not continually, in certainly in adulthood. And I think, yeah, well, I can certainly talk from personal experience of the impact of kind of pursuing FI and what comes with that impacting stress reduction, as well as some other elements and practices that I've kind of picked up along the way as well, which I think are all kind of in the, like from decluttering and minimalism and being like having just the right amount of things also contribute to kind of stress reduction. Um, and the world is only getting more stressful. It just seems to be there's so much more stuff going on and pings on your phone and like all these distractions from the real world. So I think this is a really pertinent and important episode. So yeah, really keen to get into this.
Sure. So I'll just give a quick breakdown on kind of what stress is, how our body uses it, and our mind uses it, and really a little bit about how like the assets, the not assets, the bits in life that it can impact. So stress itself is primarily it's linked to a hormone called cortisol, which people may have heard. I'm not sure, but cortisol is essentially it's a hormone. It's produced by your adrenal glands, which are two two little pyramid or triangular shaped kind of glands that sit at the top of your kidneys. So they sit there and they produce many things. Adrenaline being one, and stress like cortisol being the other. So adrenaline we've spoken about before. It gives you like raises your blood pressure, raises your pulse rate, gives you the ability to fight, fly, or run, anything like that, which is an anxiety type response. The stress part is produced by the same that same place, and what we automatically think about stress being a negative thing in life. So people say, "Oh, I'm so stressed. Or I've got too much to manage. I can't sleep. I can't think. I can't deal with all these things." Especially, it's linked very much to debt in terms of finances, and we've covered debt quite a lot. So if you are in debt, look back in the catalogue, listen to some of the episodes around good ways of getting rid of any bad debts, things like that. But stress, the best bit, the good bits about stress and that hormone release is it can work to suppress inflammation in the body. It helps regulate certainly your blood pressure and your blood sugar responses as well. It can increase the metabolism of glucose or sugar in the muscles in response to danger. So if you hear stories of I don't know, a parent has lifted a car off a toddler, or someone is, I don't know, forced to lift doors open to save a child or something like that, or done something a bit superhuman that wouldn't ordinarily be necessary, it's a combination of that adrenaline and stress response, which is giving the body enough energy to achieve sometimes superhuman things. And after that comes an awful lot of fatigue, tiredness. So those really are the kind of the benefits of that, and it's something like it's an autonomic body response. And what I mean by autonomic is you don't have any control over it. Your body will regulate that itself, unless you have some kind of adrenal gland problem. So yeah, those are kind of the good bits. The downsides of having too much stress, so too much cortisol, and it can be measured by like a simple saliva test, um, and it can be done in real time. So for example, if I were to take a cortisol test now, it would probably be a higher level of cortisol because I'm actively thinking, I'm speaking to you guys, I'm discussing this with Alex, and it uses quite a lot of my brain. Compare that with when I'm asleep, my cortisol level would be down, or when I'm just sitting relaxing or something, again, it would be down. So it fluctuates, and it's normal for it to fluctuate. But it can cause, if it's elevated for long periods of time, it can cause headaches, irritability, anxiety, as we've said, fatigue, sustained increases in blood pressure, and there's many other things that cause blood pressure increases as well. But it can impact levels of concentration, and in severe cases, cause mood changes, so depressive episodes, and also issues with sleep. So a lot of people can cite stress as being like a causal factor in them not being able to sleep particularly well.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting, I guess, how to learn a bit more about stress and actually what it is and where it comes from, and kind of the impact on your body. But I think, you know, money can be a huge contributor to stress. And I think from, some of the work I've done with some of my kind of the coaching side of things, I guess what you tend to see in the themes of what starts to cause stress is one is kind of we mentioned it towards the top of the call, but there's almost so many elements of personal finance now. If you think of, you could have two or three credit cards, you've got three or four current accounts, you've got four or five pensions, you might have, several investment accounts, you might have a crypto account. Like, you almost end up with so many things. And you might have signed up for payments for a pay, and you're could be your sofa off, or you could be buying a telly on credit or something, or a car payment. There's almost become that personal finance now, it just isn't, I get paid and I pay my rent and that's it. It's so complex and involved. And if you think all of these, everywhere that you have an account or anywhere that you've got, you're paying money to or something, you'll be getting mails and notifications and all this. So even and that in itself is quite overwhelming. So I think even just in the first point of just getting, almost making sure you understand exactly what it is you have and where things are going is a kind of a huge step of, and I guess it's that thing of, it's very anxiety inducing when you've got a lot of things that you don't really know a lot about, or you feel are out of control. So getting that control is a big step towards reducing some of that initial anxiety. Probably the biggest one is, I guess, a big contributor is debt, and kind of uncontrollable, like not uncontrollable, but sizable levels of debt with very high interest rates, where if you have a credit card and you may have signed up for that with all the intention of, spend a certain amount and, say, for ease of numbers, a purchase for £1,200, and it's a 12-month interest-free period, and it's like, I'm going to pay £100 a month and that's going to be it. And then no interest. It's of using credit cards, it's a wise use of it, but often that then gets out of control. So, actually, I can, because it's free, I'll spend a bit more later on. I'll just pay a bit more off later. Or it gets to the point where then that interest-free period has lapsed. There's still a huge balance, and then suddenly the interest rate is nearly 30%, and you know you need to really put a lot of money against that to start catching it up. So, and it's these where, and if you've got several of those, the worst things, and I've not had personal experience with it, is like payday loans. Like, the interest rates on some of these are just horrific, and if you can avoid them, you should. You should do everything in your power not to have them. Um, but all of that, debt in that way does contribute, and it's not just at the, I guess, the spectrum of, buying things for, kind of buying small valued things, and then the interest kind of catches up. If you've overstretched yourself and bought a house that's too expensive for you and your family, a stress, and that means you need to be earning, you need to be in the stressful job you're in to maintain the level of, your house and a couple of cars, and you then have not much left afterwards, and suddenly interest rates spike, or if your commissions at work or your bonus isn't as big as you think it is, or the tax regime changes and that then means you've got less money in your bank account every month. You can almost be at the other end of the spectrum where you can look like you're doing incredibly well, but it's a very, you can be on a bit of a red line really when you're like trying.
Fragile,
Yes, exactly.
really fragile. Yeah, I think about like those are like exceptional points, and in terms of like you're signing, if you do have all those things, you're signing yourself up to maintaining what is probably going to be a stressful job because the more responsibility and stress you have, the higher you should be paid for sure. But you're almost signing yourself, like if you take a 30 or a 25, 20-year mortgage or whatever, you're signing yourself up to do that for the next 20 years and doing a balancing act here with the amount you can cope with stress and the longevity of that, and your body will keep the score. It will have an impact whether you feel it inside or not, especially in certainly some of the things I mentioned in the beginning. And those are all stuff that your body will do, and you can't control it particularly well, and it can impact just so many areas. So I think one of the other things, Alex, that springs to mind is you mentioned that Swedish word that just means moderate before.
Yeah, lagom.
Yeah, and it's just enough, isn't it? It's not too
Yep.
much, not too little. Um, Kind of just about right.
Yeah, and I think houses is always one of my bit of a bugbear for me because I think you're always taught, how much can you borrow, and therefore look at houses based on how much you can borrow, which is usually anywhere from 4 to 5 times your kind of household income. And often, and this is where if you buy a house in your 30s, and then actually in 10 years' time your household income has gone up by a sizable amount, oh well, therefore I can now borrow more, and therefore we should therefore increase the size of our house or buy a more expensive one because that's just what you should do. And to your point, you are then on that treadmill again, and you're signing up for years and years and years of doing a certain job, which, hopefully you love it and it doesn't matter. Probably in a 20, 25-year career, there are going to be years where you do not like it. Um, but yeah, I think you almost can look at debt on two different ways. And yeah, one is it's almost like the high-end lifestyle can cause a lot of stress, as can,
Mm.
if you're living hand to mouth and paycheck to paycheck. And yeah, you don't want to be in either of those situations. And I think that's where like a balance and that Lagom is a really nice principle.
Yeah, it's a good idea to live off that. It kind of keeps the reward part of your brain in check, and also to appreciate if you are doing well and you are balancing life nicely, to appreciate that as well for being kind of in the middle, not at the two extreme ends. But I think about the kind of the impact of like small doses of stress in life. And I know it's been called like micro doses before, but I think humans now accept that that is the norm. You accept a level of stress with a job, you accept a level of stress in life because that's normally is how society is going. And I think if anything, it's getting more stressful in terms of. I mean, I'm only thinking about it from a millennial's point of view, but if we think about these milestones that are expected in life, it's buy a house, it's have a I don't know, have a family, it's work your way up the corporate ladder so you can finally achieve something that nobody quite knows what it is and you don't really know what to do once you get there. And if you do get there, your expectations will just raise in line with what you see other people having around you. So there's really no finish line. People are running these races without ever expecting to stop until probably life or your health will stop you at that point. So there's another thing here about being intentional with what you're doing in life, having a goal, setting a goal. Obviously, make it reasonable. If I set a goal for myself to earn £1 million a month being a nurse, it's never happening. But if I set a goal to perhaps one day have £1 million in an ISA over a number of decades, that's doable.
Yeah, so true. And I think this is where like the whole fire movement comes into its own, really. I think because it forces one to kind of look at what is really think about what is the life that want that makes you happy, and and when you start putting price tags to that, as in how much money you need to have invested to give yourself there's 98% chance that you're never going to run out of money with that. I think it then becomes much easier to have these kind of conversations with yourself or with loved ones when you're making a big decision. In that, it's like, okay, so if you were to, you know, I think we talked about it on one of the other episodes before around the current like government assumptions around getting a car. It's like always a 3-year-old car every 5 years or something, and that will need X amount of money in your investments to
Mm.
pay for that life, that part of your lifestyle. Whereas actually, it's like, well, actually, I'm quite happy with a 5-year-old car being changed every 10 years. And you can and you'd be able to equate that to that means I need X tens of thousands less saved up for that choice. And that means I therefore right now don't have to work for an extra 2 years just to pay for that bit of lifestyle choice. Um, so if you think for every
I'd forego it. I'd 100% forego it and work less.
yeah,
I really
and
would.
and I think that when you start to look at what is, and it's that thing of what's life all about, it's a lot more about experience and having an impact and doing something meaningful as opposed to working in a corporate job and then you are um kind of yeah, at the end you probably managed out and forgotten about. And I've worked in many places and there's constant restructurings and stuff going on. There was one lady who'd worked in the company for 35 years, and yeah, the same
That is a
company.
long time. Oh my goodness. That's like as old as we are.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So she joined before I was born,
Oh,
and on her last day, literally she was like, "Oh, so that's it. That's me going. 35 years I've been here." And then the manager was just like, "Yeah, thanks a lot for your help, and good luck in the future." But it was almost like she left and
what?
went in the lift, and there wasn't really. And it's almost like so you work all this time to expect to be given that, the presentation of the gold watch and the president shakes your hand and all this stuff, but it's an absolute nonsense. And I think this is where, but you can lose so much of your life stressing about getting to these
Hmm.
almost milestones, as you said. Whereas actually, when you look at like five for me, it's very much like, okay, I need X amount of money and I can then live the life that I want to live. And, I've defined what that is along with my partner, know what's comfortable and what we would feel good living that life.
Hmm.
And that means, within, 5 years, hopefully we can be there. If we want to increase that lifestyle exponentially, that means we can have that, but it then just means an extra 15 years of working on top of
Hmm.
that original five. So it's 20 years from now.
There's a
What's
trade
the,
off.
what's the trade-off?
Yeah.
There's like, it's possible, it's just later. Or, and I just think it's that mindfulness of, and it's self-evaluating, because I think also it challenges a lot of your beliefs as well, like of what you were taught or thought to think growing up. That's certainly what I've found as I kind of contemplate some of the things. And like yeah, houses, cars, holidays, lifestyle, career. What does it all? It for me, it's like retirement's a number in a bank account. Like retirement isn't an age, and I work for employers, and okay, I do a good job, but it's very much to help hit my milestone. Um,
And you're around for a time. I'm a bit shocked by that. That working 35 years in one place, and I
yeah.
think that perhaps it used to be a thing that you'd come in
Mm,
and work 30 years, 40 years, get a gold watch, see you later, job done. But that I can't see anyone, any millennial particularly, who doesn't run their own business working in the same field for 35 years. Maybe the same broad field, like you might be an accountant for that long, or I might be a nurse for that long, but not working in the same building, same faces. Like,
mhm.
did the manager there even push the lift button for her? Who knows?
Oh no, didn't even get up off the
Yeah,
desk.
didn't
It's
even
just
do
to
that, and
finish
it's
it off emails.
yeah, and again, it's other people's priorities, isn't it? It meant a lot to her. Sounds like she probably did a bit of processing on the way down and lift, and
Yeah.
took a deep breath before she walked out the building because it's a big amount of change. But to everyone else around you, like they're getting on with their own life.
Yeah.
I think most people in society are replaceable for, and sometimes it might take a different amount of time, but oh, I don't know, unless you're the only brain surgeon that can do this one particular thing, then perhaps not. There are many people who can do those things, but the more niche your skills are, perhaps the less replaceable you are, or the longer it would take. But it's um it's a fleeting thing, isn't it? I wonder what that lady thought about kind of on her way out. Did she feel like it's 35 years well spent? Has she lived the same year 35 times? Who knows?
Yeah,
It's.
exactly. And I think almost, I think letting go of a lot of these like ideas
Mm,
is in itself quite a good way to reduce some of the stress because it's like there are so many hundreds of other people say in an organization all with completely different priorities. You're not the one, you're not the special one that everyone's clapping out of the building. And it's almost like if you were to have experienced that, you know, as a 25-year-old, would you have then made different choices? And but I think, yeah, certainly for me, it's yeah, the idea of staying in one place for that long is bonkers. But I think it just goes to show, like, no matter how much stress and dedication you have for something like that, the end result probably isn't what you expect it to be. Um,
mm.
yeah,
There's a lot here I think about I'll be happy when, and I'll be happy if I get that, when I reach this thing, when I earn that amount of money, when I buy that house, I buy the car,
yeah,
whatever. And then when you get there, and we can apply this to like the day we become financially
yeah,
independent or whatever, but you work all this time to achieve this one thing, and when you get there it's going to be like ungratifying. It'll be just a Tuesday or a Saturday or whatever day of the week to the majority of people, and what it means is our lives, or the people on this five path, their life will change, but the rest of the world will
yeah,
continue to go on, because it's not like everybody's going to retire the world over. That would kind of crash the economy and cause problems. But it's it's a little bit like life will happen depending on what you do with it. So be intentional with your life. Don't let it happen to you. You choose what you want out of life, and then work out how best you can achieve that. So for me, I want to learn as much, kind of as much as I can. I want to see many places. I want to look back on life when I'm old, and if I get to old age, I'll look back at it and think, "Oh, actually, that was a good. You had a good time. You did a lot of things. You made a lot of impact on people, and you don't hold any big regrets with it."
yeah. I think that's yeah, so true. And I think that's yeah, I'm very much the same. And I think the point you made just before that around the one more the one more year or the I'll be happy when
Mm,
syndrome. I think I've been reading quite a lot about I guess like not philosophy, but just about stress relief actually and being more mindful. And I think there's a Buddhist quote where it's like wherever you go, there you are. And it's almost
mm,
I think it's almost like you almost have to find peace within and be kind of reconciled with yourself more than like that extra car or that cool Rolex watch that you've been eyeing up. You're still going to be the same person after you've bought it, and the stuff wears. After maybe the few weeks of it wearing off, the excitement wearing off. Um, and I just think it's like the same thing with fight. It's almost like you could want to be in careers. I want to get to the absolute very top. It's like, okay, once you're there, like it's still
yeah. Then
you,
what?
and then what?
Yeah. What happens next? Where does the bar raise itself to?
Yeah.
So I think, like what you said, like wherever you go, there you are. It's actually a book by a guy called John Kabat-Zinn. Apparently, I don't know. I've just
Oh,
googled it,
cool.
right? But I think it's, or maybe the book's been written after the quote. Who knows? But I think it's about being comfortable with who you
Mm,
are, and what you expect out of life. Because if I expect to earn £1 million a month or £1 million a day, it's not happening being a nurse. I know that. I don't aspire to that, because I don't think it would appreciably change who I am or what I would do. I would certainly be more charitable. I'd buy a lot more people lunch. I would kind of try and impact from the ground up, I suppose. But I don't think it would fundamentally change. Like, I'm not about, like, if that happened and I earned, I don't know, £1 million, say 30 million a month, I would increase my lifestyle to a degree, but we're not talking like 10-bed mansions, 9 cars, a swimming pool, and a fleet of
Mm.
staff. That sounds stressful to me to have to deal with all of
Yeah,
that. I would rather continue finding a life of peace and just reducing perhaps some of the mental load that I carry. So I'd probably outsource some of that, but I'd want something mentally stimulating. And again, we're back to balance.
yeah,
Mm.
and I think, I mean, conscious of we're closing in on the time, but there was a really good
Mhm.
interview with Warren Buffett, and who is, he's, I don't know how much he's worth, depends on the share price of Berkshire Hathaway, but easily over $100 billion. And I just really admire his kind of lifestyle. I mean, he's lived in the same house that he's had for the last 50 odd years. He rents one floor of an office building, um, from where like about a 10-minute drive away from his house, and um, has always grown up in that kind of area. He said and he remember he gave an interview to some school children, some like university students, and basically saying, for the most part, our lives aren't that much different. He said, if I turn the TV on, I still have the same TV shows. I still get the same like burger at McDonald's as you do. I wear the same clothes as you do. That really the only big difference in our lifestyle is the way that we fly, because he has a private plane. But he said, but broadly, our life is the same, like in terms of the things we
Mm.
have. And it's like, my house, he was like, why do I need like 15 houses around the world? I only live in one. He said, my house, it keeps him cool in the summer and warm in the winter. Um, and I just thought it was like
Mm.
like he could literally have whatever he wants. Um,
Yeah, and that's all he kind of needs out of life, isn't it? And I think there's something here about what you want and what you aspire to, but also what you need is actually very
mhm.
little.
Yeah.
And recognizing how, say, for example, advertising works, how marketing works, how the Western world works, and a lot of it is parting people with money based on emotions. And I know we've talked about kind of emotional choices and spending, etc., before, and how things sell. So being aware of those things and being um, kind of privy to thinking about your own emotions. So, like, why do you think you need this? Why do you think you'll be happy when this happens? What will actually change? And the answer is likely nothing. You just hope that the future will be slightly less stressful. You'll feel happier, but that is a little bit of a trick of your brain. It's because your brain doesn't want to think about humongous things. I mean, it breaks it down into small bits to be like, actually, this is quite difficult for me to think about this. I'll just I'll just get whatever this next thing is, and then when I do that, I'll be happy. And the immediate effect there is your brain stops working so hard, and that's its only job, is to conserve resources and energy for winter that never comes now. Which is why I think we see this massive rise in certainly mental health issues, because we're trying to live in the 21st century and we've still got prehistoric brains. Yeah. The only other thing, Alex, I wanted to mention, because I'm conscious we're trying to keep this episode to half an hour, is one of the biggest stress relievers in my life is the emergency fund that I have,
Yes.
which is one of the first parts that we talk about. Is just having a pot of cash to shield you from life.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up as well. I think it's
Yeah,
almost
me
a
too.
cornerstone of fight. It's almost doing. There's one of almost getting your house in order and knowing kind of what's coming in, what's going out in
Mm.
terms of money, and then the next one is very much build that emergency fund to protect you. And completely with you. I think for me, it's been a huge stress relief just knowing it's there, and it kind of just ticks over in the background. And luckily, I've had to use it once when the boiler broke, so that was very much there for a reason. So that was good. But it causes things to be a bit more of like an inconvenience and a headache, more so than a huge crisis. So that's completely agree with you. That's been my stress relief.
Yeah, I mean, turns things from a mild inconvenience that could be really problematic, and it's kind of like you're just holding a shield, aren't you, against life, and it just um, insulates you against some of those problems. So yeah, first thing in stress reduction is have an emergency fund, clear off any bad debts you have.
Yeah.
Think about really where you are now and where you'd like to get to, and obviously don't do all this in one session. Do it over a couple of weeks. Involve your spouse, husband, wife, partner, whatever. So you're both going in the same direction. Because if you're both pulling in different ways, that's going to be problematic. You're kind of not going to get anywhere. But I think people make problems seem bigger than they actually are. And action in any avenue around finances and money, it's the small actions that are consistent over time that will get you where you want to be. And if you can make your day-to-day life not totally unstress free, because you need some of it in your life to keep you sharp, keep you motivated, and keep you going, keep your blood pressure to a level where you don't faint. But it's kind of figuring out the kind of the best scenario for you. I mean, don't take something where you're monster stressed and you can't sleep without pills and you're struggling with kind of everything just to earn 5K a month or something, because actually it's probably not making you any happier than earning half that. And you're working all these extra times for it. So again, work out your true hourly rate, as we've said. Yeah. Alex, do you think that covers a little bit of tangent, but FI and stress reduction?
I think,
Do you have any other questions on the science of it or anything like that?
No, I think that's yeah, well covered. And I think if any of the listeners out there have got any questions or thoughts or comments, again, please let us know.
Yeah, do. And if you can leave us a review, please do. It helps. And we'd like to hear from you. So yeah, and if you've got any particular methods that you've used to help you deal with stress, certainly financial, yeah, we're all ears to learn that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's been episode 44. Alex, I'll see you next week for episode 45. Thank you everyone for listening. Be kind to yourself within the next kind of 7 days. And if you can, be kind to someone else as well. None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.